Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our main hall. Thanks for being with us from this morning, of course, inside events as well, who started at 1 p.m. But here we have more keynote speakers for you until you carry on with the summit. Nice to have you all. Thanks for all the sponsors who are joining us. And of course, we are still live from Sarajevo, Bosnia and Herzegovina. My name is Frano, but I'm not the important guy. Next keynote speaker knows everything about she wants to share with us, especially after 10 years of experience in opening new markets, creating alliances, driving sales. She was working in Austria, Netherlands, UK, Croatia, Russia for several years. The topic, artificial intelligence, something which we men do not understand, but females do. So it's my great pleasure to introduce you Katerina Ryan, who will be joining us. Cathexis Europe. Hello, Catherine, how are you?
Hello, do you hear me well?
I hear you well, loud and clear. Now we're going to see you, we see you. And we hear you and we see your presentation. So if you're ready, we're eager to learn something more about what you're going to present.
Thank you for the introduction. As you said, I'm working for Cathexis Europe, developing business in Europe. I'm based in Croatia actually for the last couple of years. And Cathexis itself, it's a company from South Africa. They've been active in the market for more than 25 years, developing software and solutions for video surveillance industry, especially strong in video management systems. And we have put together some experience, some knowledge, some developments, which we also have done in the last couple of years in this industry. And that's basically what we would like to share with you today. So it's virtually impossible to go anywhere in the smart technology market, including the security and safety sectors, without coming across some reference to artificial intelligence or AI. There are some systems which proclaim that they are AI enabled without going into any detail about how the benefits can be realized. It sounds like if the goal is to flag the system as artificial intelligence enabled rather than solve the problems. According to Wikipedia, artificial intelligence is intelligence demonstrated by machines, unlike the natural intelligence displayed by humans and animals, which involves consciousness and emotionality. Actually, artificial intelligence is not a new concept. It all started in about 1950s and was considered something from science fiction. Later comes the concept of machine learning, a more flexible and subset of artificial intelligence heavily dependent upon input data. Currently, we hear more about neural networks or deep learning. Not as intelligent as a human being, human can learn or figure something out as an intelligent person. Computers don't do self-learning. It can fine-tune what it already knows. For example, we take a new phone and, if it's Apple, we ask Siri for help. The first time, it might not even recognize our voice or accent, but it gets better at understanding as we keep doing it over and over again. I would like to share with you this small video that is perfect at explaining this concept.
When you or I look at this creature, we know it's a dog. But when a computer sees him, all it sees is this. Get a computer to recognize that this photo, or this one, or that one, is a photo of a dog.
It turns out that the only reliable way to solve this problem is to give the computer lots of examples and have it figure out on its own the average, the numbers that really represent a dog.
Here's where deep learning comes in. As you might recall, it's a program based on the way your brain works. And it looks something like this. Here we have layers of sensors or nodes. Each feeds information in one direction, from input to output. The input layer is kind of like your retina, the part of your eye that senses light and color. In the case of this photo of Buddy, it senses dark over there, light over here. This information gets fed to the next layer, which can recognize basic features like edges. That then goes to the next layer, which recognizes more complex features like shapes. Finally, based on all of this, the output layer labels the image as either dog or not dog. But here's the kicker, and this is what's revolutionary about deep learning and neural networks. At first, the computer has no idea what it's looking at. It just responds randomly. But each time it gets a wrong answer,
information flows backwards through the network saying, you got the answer wrong. So anybody who is supporting that answer, your connection strength should get a bit weaker.
and anybody who is supporting the right answer, their connections get stronger. Back and forth, it does this over and over again, until thousands of images later, the computer teaches itself the features that define dogginess.
So the main idea here is that the system learning is based on the information it's provided. Depending upon the input it receives, it will select a relevant output. Thanks to numerous Hollywood productions, CSI television shows, and general misunderstanding of the way in which technology works, many end users believe the ability for deep learning systems to gather data independently, assess and understand it, and then apply reasoning based on the data that is already available. But it's not easy, and there are limitations. It's important to configure artificial intelligence correctly. For example, you've got a large site with several kilometers of fencing and perimeter protection. Let's say 500 cameras, analytics like line crossing, and AI comes into consideration because we need to define a person attempting to climb over the fence. So, because that would minimize the false alarms coming from the system. In order to do this correctly, there are several things that have to be correct. For example, camera positioning, lighting, camera installation needs to be good, no waving in the wind. But would AI-enabled camera be really a magic formula for this? Imagine a situation, it's the middle of the night and you see a figure. Human brain kind of figures out, but not the camera. So that means that IR illumination has to be great, but it could be also pouring with the rain. Could be misty, could be snow. All of this makes object definition impossible. The AI is really dependent on a good view of the subject. AI also works with libraries of objects. The libraries are big and expensive. They require a lot of processing and teaching. If you remember when face recognition just started, the results were not super accurate, but over time they got much better. So how do you overcome these shortcomings in a project? So for example, in our fence project, the customer is unlikely to put AI on all 500 cameras. So they are more likely to choose high-risk areas and perhaps apply first other type of analytics like loitering. Like in the picture that I'm showing now, it's one of the projects that we've done at our retail customer. So we have applied basically the double lines, but also the speed with which the person is going, which is different from the speed of, for example, a bat that is flying or a bird that is flying. The customer also has to choose what is important and what is not. It's important to work closely with the end user to understand the real needs of the project and help them realize greater benefits from their investment. For example, with the perimeter, you just assume that you are looking for people jumping from outside to inside. But for example, in case of our customer, they were actually looking for people jumping from inside to the outside with the goods or with anything they have potentially stolen. So what value does it really bring? If we examine the two stages of CCTV, the actual event when something happens, and then the post-event or data analysis, artificial intelligence can play a very useful part in both. Currently, with standard pixel-based analytics, one is merely analyzing the behavior of groups of pixels or blobs. So, is there a new blob? What size is it? Is it moving? What direction is it moving? And what speed? Any of these criteria could be used to assess the situation. For example, a CCTV system sees a trolley full of products pushed out of the entrance of a supermarket. While conventional analytics can detect something moving in the wrong direction, it would still be looking for the blobs, but have no idea what the blob is. If you add an artificial intelligence layer, we can not only determine that it was a trolley, but also a trolley full of goods being stolen without paying. So that's also our customer case. In general, a good artificial intelligence library must be flexible and adaptable to the end user needs. Libraries come standard with a known list of items, but good library and supporting tools must be also manageable, so you can add on items on demand and train it easily to suit special requirements. There is no such a thing as Oxford Dictionary for all kinds of items for these libraries. It's not like it's going to add something itself. So for a library to learn a new object, it has to literally be shown thousands of images of that object. If one has the ability to identify or categorize objects and log associated metadata, it is logical to assume that one should have the ability to post-analyze data itself and to help find when incidents matching certain criteria occurred. The most easy example to think of would be the cars, that in large systems for cities, for example, recognizing the car, the make, the color, and to be able to search it quickly again and get the data from a central database within minutes. So the length and the breadth of this analysis depends very much on the sophistication of the software and, of course, the end user's budget. So, as we said, there are a lot of possibilities, but also a lot of things you have to think about when you are willing to apply this in your project. So the markets where it's applicable at the moment is, of course, security, health and safety, operational. For Cathexis, deploying innovation and analytics, it's all about the effectiveness of innovation. It takes our offering to the next level, increases the level of proposition, and brings values to partners and customers. So that was my presentation for today. I would be glad to hear you if you have any questions.
Everything is good. I'm just walking along and I use my time to connect all the questions we have. So dear Katerina, thank you for this presentation. I always say that artificial intelligence has a lot of things to learn till we can rely completely on it. And there was actually much of your colleagues throughout the years on the summit who actually said that they're gaining more knowledge, that it is more perfection. I always ask them, does it work on Thailand? And everybody starts to smile because there is very hard to know who is who in some part of the world. But the questions are here. If you're ready, I'm going to ask you first one. So,
Sure.
dear Katerina, how do we deal with the perception of both the dangers and the capabilities of artificial intelligence that have been developing for decades in the popular culture? Are they an obstacle or are they a plus or bon?
I don't quite understand, the question. Because what do you mean by the dangerous? I think that it's just a tool, which has to be applied correctly. So, we are in security here, right? So we are all under the GDPR, under, the security regulations. So we're not mass media, we're not on even internet. So we follow the rules and we provide the tools for basically solving the problems.
So you're more with the plus than with the minus of the AI?
Of course. That's, we look at it as a tool. So that's, it's a tool for solving certain kind of problems and providing some benefits, making basically customers' life easier. We don't look at it probably in a absolutely like global perspective. For us, it's more like, we had a customer. We had a lot of false alarms because the spiders were making webs and they were connected to the alarm center, which was receiving many false alarms. And the guys had to pay for every alarm. So we have created an algorithm using artificial intelligence and object definition that allowed to define that the blob that is seen on the camera is actually a spider. So in that case, it's just, saving our customer a lot of money. But that's basically what Cathexis does for the customers. Yeah, we use all kind of tools just to be able to solve the problems.
So, as I understand, there is no artificial intelligence without humans. So we do not have to be afraid.
Exactly. It's not it's not science fiction. No, it's not science fiction at all. And you've seen in the video, you have to put a lot of effort before you can actually get something decent out of it.
Nice. Another question just popped out. Is there a clearly drawn line at which AI-based surveillance becomes too pervasive, and how do countries draw the lines more easily with the help of technology?
But we're talking about surveillance. So at this moment, our industry is becoming more and more regulated, with the different requirements from different bodies, apart from the general bodies, which, where GDPR came from. We have also local unions, for example, like ACES, but also the TAPA guys for the logistics, which make a lot of rules about using pretty much any kind of data and technology as well. So I don't think we should be really afraid of that.
Well, that's nice to hear.
Invasive.
Actually, there was always like a huge buzz about the AI because they said, no, that we humans will be erased, will be changed. And there is actually, I read in the article that only 5% of everything, every job, single job in the world can be used and be just on AI. So we always have to be here to learn a little bit more and share the knowledge with AI.
I think so, and I don't think humans would ever be replaced. I just think that maybe some jobs will change with the time, but they are changing every day. Even what we do, from being on business trip every week to being just in front of a camera.
That's true. Thank you so much, Katerina, for joining us. We hope that you have a nice the rest of the day and carry on, just carry on.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
No, it was a pleasure having you here live from Sarajevo. There was Katerina Ryan. If you have any questions, you can always contact her because they're also our partners. And thanks for being our sponsor as well. And hope to see you in person soon enough.
Me too. Me too. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.